Think about how often we convince ourselves that we're ready for something when in reality we aren't. We assume we're prepared for love, for deep connection, for the kind of relationship that transforms us, yet time and time again, we find ourselves in cycles of heartbreak, confusion, or frustration. This isn't random. It's not just bad luck. It's a reflection of something deeper, of timing, of preparation, of whether or not we are truly aligned with what we're asking for. When God sends the right person, it isn't dictated by our impatience or our desires alone. It happens according to a larger, more intricate plan, one that takes into account our growth, our character, and whether we are in a place where we can both receive and sustain that kind of love. This is something we struggle with because we live in a world that pushes immediate gratification. We don't want to wait. We want results now. And we believe that because we feel ready, we are ready. But being ready for love is not about wanting it. It's about being able to handle the responsibility of it. And real love, the kind that is sent from God, is not just about companionship. It's about transformation. So why does timing matter so much? Because if the right person arrives when you are in the wrong place mentally, emotionally, or spiritually, you will not recognize them for who they are. Worse, you may even sabotage the relationship before it ever has a chance to grow. Think about how many people pray for love but refuse to work on themselves. They hold on to bitterness from past relationships. They have unresolved insecurities. They carry mindsets that prevent them from giving and receiving love fully, and then they wonder why relationships don't work. The truth is, God does not just send people into your life because you want them. He sends them when you are in a position to honor and protect what they bring. This is why patience and trust are crucial. You can't force something that isn't ready. You wouldn't take a cake out of the oven before it's fully baked and expect it to taste right. You wouldn't plant a seed and expect it to bear fruit the next day. Growth takes time. The version of you that is meant to meet your soulmate is not the version of you that is still clinging to past wounds, toxic patterns, or immaturity. And here's the deeper, more difficult truth. Sometimes what feels like delay is actually protection. We only see life from our limited perspective, but God sees the full picture. What you may perceive as rejection, failed relationships, doors closing, people walking away, may be His way of steering you towards something far better than what you were willing to settle for. We've all had moments where we wanted something desperately, only to realize later that it wouldn't have been good for us. The same applies to relationships. Sometimes the person you think you want is not the person you need. It's easy to get caught up in the illusion that love is something you chase, that if you just try hard enough, if you just meet the right person, things will fall into place. But real love, the kind that is divinely orchestrated, does not require chasing. It requires alignment, and alignment happens when you are fully rooted in your purpose, when you have healed from your past, and when you are living as the person you were meant to be. So if you're wondering where your soulmate is, if you're asking why it hasn't happened yet, shift your focus. Instead of asking, when will I meet the right person? Ask, am I becoming the right person? Instead of obsessing over timing, ask yourself whether you are truly prepared for what you're asking for. Because the truth is, when you are, it will happen. And when it does, it won't be forced, it won't be confusing, and it won't feel like something you have to struggle to hold on to. It will arrive in a way that is unmistakable, undeniable, and perfectly timed. And that's the beauty of divine timing. It doesn't operate according to our impatience, but according to our readiness. So trust that. Work on that. Because when the right person arrives, you'll want to be ready to receive them. There's something profound about the way we recognize truth when we encounter it. It's not just an intellectual realization, it's a deep, intuitive knowing, something that resonates at a level beyond words. The same principle applies to the people who are meant to play a significant role in our lives. When God sends the right person, your soul recognizes them before your mind fully comprehends what's happening. It's not just about attraction, it's not just about compatibility, it's about connection at the deepest possible level. Something undeniable, something that cannot be ignored. We've all met people who seemed perfect on paper, but left us feeling strangely disconnected. The chemistry might have been there, the conversations engaging, and yet something was missing. That's because real connection isn't built solely on shared interests or even mutual attraction. It's something deeper. It's about alignment at the core of who you are. And when you meet someone who is truly meant for you, there is an unshakable familiarity, a sense that you've known them far longer than the time you've actually spent together. Why does this happen? Because we are not just physical beings. We are psychological, emotional, and spiritual creatures. And true connection, the kind that is divinely orchestrated, isn't merely a matter of two people liking each other. It's about two people who were always meant to find each other, drawn together by something beyond either of their individual efforts. When God sends your soulmate, there is an immediate depth to the relationship that defies logic. You'll find yourself speaking about things you don't normally discuss, revealing parts of yourself that you usually guard, feeling seen in a way that is rare and unmistakable. This recognition doesn't mean the relationship will be effortless. Even the most profound connections require work, patience, and commitment. But what it does mean is that there is a foundation of authenticity from the very beginning, an ease, a comfort, a sense of being fully accepted for who you are. And that kind of connection is invaluable because in a world full of performance, masks, and superficiality, finding someone with whom you can be completely real is rare. Think about the alternative. Many people spend years chasing relationships that require them to be someone they're not. Relationships where they feel they have to prove their worth, constantly earn love, or suppress parts of themselves to keep the other person interested. That's not connection. That's insecurity disguised as love. And if a relationship starts with that kind of dynamic, it will only lead to exhaustion, resentment, and ultimately a sense of loneliness, even when you're with someone. But when God sends the right person, there is no performance. You don't have to convince them of your worth because they already see it. You don't have to chase them because they are already walking toward you. You don't have to shrink yourself to fit into their world because they love you for the fullness of who you are. That doesn't mean they won't challenge you. In fact, real love will often push you toward growth in ways that are uncomfortable, but it will never require you to become someone you are not. This is why recognizing true connection is so important. Many people let the right person pass them by because they are too focused on superficial qualities, too attached to an idea of love that is based on fantasy rather than reality. They expect fireworks, constant excitement, or a love story that follows a perfect script. But the truth is, when the right person enters your life, it might not always feel like a dramatic explosion of emotion. Sometimes it feels like peace, like coming home, like a conversation that never feels forced, like laughter that doesn't require effort, like knowing without needing to be told that this person is different. And that kind of connection should never be ignored. It's easy to doubt it, to overanalyze it, to tell yourself that it's too good to be true. But real love, when it's from God, isn't about being too good to be true. It's about being good and true at the same time. It's about authenticity over excitement, depth over drama, stability over chaos. So when you meet someone and there is a profound, undeniable sense of connection, when your soul recognizes theirs in a way that you cannot logically explain, don't dismiss it. Don't run from it out of fear. And don't let the distractions of the world convince you that something fleeting and shallow is more valuable than something real. Because when God sends the right person, it's not just about what you want. It's about what you need. It's about who you are meant to become together. And the moment you recognize that, everything changes. A relationship that is truly meant for you will not pull you away from your faith, your values, or your purpose. It will reinforce them. This is something people often overlook when searching for love. They focus on attraction, on chemistry, on shared interests. And while all of those things matter, they are not the foundation of a relationship that will last. A connection that is divinely orchestrated will be built on something far deeper, spiritual alignment. That means your relationship will not just be about companionship, it will be about purpose. It will elevate you, sharpen you, and challenge you to become more of who you were created to be. Now, this isn't to say that both people need to be identical in their beliefs or at the exact same point in their spiritual journeys, but it does mean that they must be moving in the same direction. Two people cannot walk together for long if they are headed toward completely... You see this all the time. People who are drawn to each other, but ultimately find themselves in conflict because their values, their visions for life, or their fundamental beliefs are misaligned. And that misalignment, no matter how much attraction exists, will create division. We tend to underestimate just how much our relationships shape us. The person you commit yourself to will have more influence on your mindset, your habits, and your long-term trajectory than almost anyone else in your life. If they are not aligned with your faith and your purpose, they will slowly pull you away from it. Maybe not intentionally, maybe not even noticeably at first, but over time, misalignment always leads to compromise. And compromise in the wrong areas, your principles, your convictions, your calling, always leads to regret. The problem is that many people don't recognize this early enough. They tell themselves that love alone is enough to make a relationship work, that differences in belief or priorities can be figured out later. But that's a dangerous assumption, because when trials come, and they will, the strength of your relationship will be determined by the foundation it was built upon. If that foundation is shaky, if it's based on emotion rather than principle, if it lacks a shared vision, it will not withstand the pressures of life. This is why spiritual alignment is so critical. When you and your partner are both rooted in the same core values, when you share a common understanding of purpose, and when you encourage each other's faith rather than weaken it, the relationship becomes something more than just a source of happiness. It becomes a source of strength. It becomes something that refines you rather than distracts you, something that challenges you in the right ways rather than tempting you in the wrong ones. But let's take this a step further. Spiritual alignment is not just about avoiding the wrong person, it's about becoming the right person. Too often, people focus on finding someone who matches their beliefs while neglecting their own personal growth. They want a partner who is strong in faith while they themselves remain stagnant. That's not how this works. If you desire a relationship that is built on spiritual alignment, you must first make sure that you are aligned with your own faith and purpose. You cannot ask for a relationship that pushes you closer to God if you yourself are not willing to pursue Him first. And this is where people struggle. They want love to come before personal transformation. They want a relationship to fix what only internal growth can fix. But a healthy relationship does not complete you. It complements you. If you are waiting for another person to give your life meaning, to strengthen your faith, or to provide you with direction, you are placing a burden on that relationship that it was never meant to carry. True alignment happens when two people are individually strong, walking in their own paths, but moving in the same direction together. So the real question is not just whether someone else is spiritually aligned with you, but whether you are spiritually aligned with yourself. Are you living in accordance with your values? Are you growing in your faith? Are you building your life in such a way that when the right person comes along, you are ready to walk alongside them without losing yourself in the process? Because if you are not, then even if the right person were to appear, the relationship would not thrive. And that is the ultimate takeaway here. The right relationship will not require you to compromise your faith, your integrity, or your purpose. It will strengthen those things. It will push you to become more of who you are meant to be, not less. If a relationship is pulling you away from the things that matter most, then no matter how much you want it to work, it is not from God. So if you want a relationship that is truly aligned, start with yourself. Become the kind of person who can sustain that level of connection. Because when the right person arrives, they will not complete you, they will join you. And together you will build something that is not just fulfilling, but deeply meaningful, rooted in truth, and capable of withstanding anything life throws your way. One of the clearest signs that a relationship is meant for you is the presence of peace. Not excitement, not obsession, not the constant roller coaster of highs and lows that so many people mistake for passion, but peace. A deep, unshakable certainty that, even in the midst of challenges, this connection is good for you. The problem is, we live in a culture that has conditioned us to associate love with drama. We're told that if it's real, it will be intense. It will consume you. It will keep you on edge, constantly wondering what the other person is thinking, analyzing every text, feeling an emotional rush followed by an inevitable crash. And we call this love. But it's not. It's anxiety. It's insecurity masquerading as romance. It's a relationship dynamic built on uncertainty, not stability. Now contrast that with what happens when you meet the right person. Instead of confusion, there is clarity. Instead of questioning where you stand, there is security. Instead of walking on eggshells, worrying about saying the wrong thing, you feel at ease. And that ease isn't boring. It's a sign of emotional maturity. It means you're no longer stuck in the cycle of chasing something that was never meant to last. This doesn't mean that the relationship will be free of difficulties. No real relationship is. There will be disagreements, moments of doubt, external stressors that put pressure on both of you. But the key difference is that, even in those moments, the foundation remains strong. The connection isn't based on fear of losing each other, but on the deep trust that you are in this together. This kind of relationship is rare because it requires both people to be whole on their own first. People who are insecure, who haven't worked through their own issues, often create relationships that reflect their inner turmoil. They seek out drama because it feels familiar. They confuse chaos with love because they've never known anything different. And that's why they mistake peace for boredom. But let's break this down further. What does it actually mean to have peace in a relationship? It means you don't feel the need to constantly prove your worth. It means you can be yourself fully and unapologetically without fear of judgment or abandonment. It means that when challenges arise, you don't immediately assume the worst, that the relationship is doomed, that you're about to be left, that everything is falling apart. Instead, you approach difficulties with the confidence that they can be worked through. That's a stark contrast to the kind of relationships most people are used to. So many relationships are built on a foundation of uncertainty, people playing games, keeping score, withholding affection as a way to maintain control. And the result? Anxiety, insecurity, a constant undercurrent of stress. When you're in a relationship like that, you're not building something real, you're just trying to survive emotionally. The right relationship will not distract you from your purpose, it will amplify it. Love, when aligned with truth, strengthens rather than weakens. So focus on becoming, not just finding. Because when you are truly ready, love won't feel like a disruption, it will feel like destiny finally unfolding.